Welcome to Karazar. Imagine being an albino boy who, unfortunately, due to fate, loses his parents, and now you have to start a new life with your little sister in the countryside, but now they call you Flatfoot. Flatfoot. Yeah, because you walk evenly with the girls. Dude, I'm out. Before we start, let me set the context without any excuses. This anime has several roots, so don't be surprised if suddenly the big boy is already resentful towards another girl because he doesn't even forgive his sister. I didn't see that coming. It all starts with the little twins, Kasugano, Sora, and our protagonist Haruka. The siblings lost their parents in an accident and must return to the countryside to live with The siblings lost their parents in an accident, and now it is time to return to the countryside where they will live in their grandparents' house, and thus their new life begins. On the way back to the little town, we'll meet characters who will be important later on, like Akira, Kozue, and Nao. The next day, Haru goes to school while his sister stays home, recalling an emotional childhood moment. Sora loves her brother with care. While Sora massages the potato, Karin interacts with classmates, and we meet Kazuha, a protective girl who looks out for Akira. So of course, Sora loves her little brother, but not in a kissy way, more like a caring one. While Sora massages, Karin interacts with classmates, and we meet Kazuha, a protective girl who looks out for Akira. Our protagonist learns about the school, guided by Kozue, a shy girl. Haru reveals Sora doesn't attend school for health reasons, and he encounters Ao, the twins' neighbor, and an old acquaintance. Then our protagonist would visit the school, being guided by Kozue, a girl who becomes so embarrassed next to such a young man. Haru would tell the girl that Sora doesn't go to school because she's always been really delicate health-wise, and on top of that, he would run into Ao again, a girl who is the twins' neighbor and seems to be an old acquaintance. Don't tell me that was your girl, dude. Lend her to Kiri for a bit. Yeah, alright. Apparently, our protagonist was already quite the ladies' man since he was little, because he would tell her not to cry because he had a beautiful smile. As he remembers this, our albino boy runs into her and they ride back home together on the bike. Zora would see all this from home, and when she sees her little brother arrive, she would make a big deal out of it like he was her boyfriend. It's like she's calling you Nichin too, dude. She tells him that she had sent several messages to his phone and that he hadn't responded to any of them, but Haru had just forgotten his phone at home. This is when things get a bit steamy, because our protagonist approaches his little sister to apologize in a very northern way. Nah, just kidding. Sora was just imagining it. So what really happens is that her twin brother tells her that she's grown up enough to not always need him. Cut it out, girl. Already at night, while Haru was sleeping, Sora bursts into his room with northern intentions, and as you can imagine, the protagonist has no idea what the hell is going on. But don't worry, nothing happens that's worthy of Monterey. The little twin just wanted him to take some measurements for her uniform. Even though it wasn't necessary to make such a big deal out of it, the next day, Haru would run into Ryohei, a classmate, and Konao, and then all the other girls from the harem would join in, each having some kind of relationship with our protagonist, or at least wanting to have one. The important thing here is to show us all the friendships that the albino has managed to make in just a few days. He has it on easy mode because he's really stylish. Sora, on her part, spends the whole day really bored in class, and you can't blame her. Without the internet, there's nothing to do but clean up. Haru was leaving the house just when he heard his little sister scream, so he goes upstairs to see what's going on and finds out they're having a mortal battle with a mosquito. So after helping out the northern little twin, our protagonist is pretty worn out. Yakir takes advantage of the bug to give her a little massage and tells her that to relieve stress, Ian will go to his house, so that's fine. But hey, it's only with the intention of lending her a bug net. Yeah, right. This is overheard by Kazuha, who offers to accompany them in an obvious fit of jealousy. And so throughout the day, we'll learn a lot about Akira, like how she's such a cheerful and lively girl, willing to neglect herself to please others, which always annoys Kazuha. That's why she's so overprotective of her. Like really over the top, because the girl won't even go to the bathroom unless Kazuha tells her to. I need to spill the beans, girl. After class, Haru heads over to Akira's house to get the mosquito net, and there she explains to him how to use it and mentions that she doesn't have parents, so she lives there alone. Occasionally, the lady from the candy store comes to visit her, and by the way, she's one of those who clearly needs some collagen. I need to take out the mole, girl. After class, Haru rushes to Akira's house for the mosquito net. She explains its use and mentions living alone without parents. Occasionally, the candy store lady visits her, who clearly needs collagen. Haru stops by the store, asks about Akira's parents, and is told to mind his business. On his way back, Kazuha offers him a ride. In the car, Haru asks again about Akira living alone and is advised to let it go. After visiting the candy store and asking about Akira's parents, he's told to mind his business. Kazuha offers a ride home. Haru asks again about Akira living alone and is told to let it go. He notes their poor sewing skills. She offers to help. And just when he was on his way back, Kazuha drives by in her car and offers to take him home. Again, while they're in the car, Haru decides to ask why Akira lives alone, and he gets the same response. Just let it go, man. Once they were at the twins' house, our protagonist comments that she and her sister are terrible at sewing buttons, and he mentions this because Kazuha brought Sora's uniform with her. Since they were at both of their places, she offers to help them get the uniform ready, which makes the northern little twin really jealous. So with the uniform finally ready, Sora goes to school, and her first interaction is with Ryohei, who has that all-mine personality and doesn't hesitate for a second to flirt with the pretty albino, which makes her feel super uncomfortable. Typical macho, right? I'm gonna ignore you, dude. And unfortunately for the northern girl, when she got to school, she would discover that she would not share a classroom with her brother, so she lost her way. Later in gym class, it's the perfect time to do nothing but play, and the protagonists clean the school office, so Akira starts spraying everyone with the hose. Everyone is in swimsuits, so getting wet is no big deal, but Kazuha gets soaked, and Akira feels bad for drenching her uniform, so they both head to the girls' locker room together. But then Haru realizes he dropped his phone on the floor, so he decides to hand it to her. But while he's outside the locker room, he hears some really strange noises, way too strange. And just at that moment, Motoka shows up thinking he was spying in the locker room. He quickly clears up the misunderstanding, and the maid offers to deliver the phone for him.
Then it was already getting dark, and Haru was on his way back thinking about what he had heard. Notably, they called each other little sister, which, if you think about it, could really confuse someone.
And just at that moment, Motoka shows up thinking our protagonist was trying to spy in the locker room. He quickly clears up the misunderstanding, and the maid offers to deliver the phone for him. Then it was already getting dark, and Haru was on his way back thinking about what he had heard. One of the most important things being that they both called each other little sister, which, if you think about it, could really confuse someone. And just at that moment, Kazuha shows up wanting to know what he heard outside the locker room, and our protagonist would confess that he heard that. This is where Kazuha has no choice but to spill the whole tea, and it turns out that she and Akira are sisters, half-sisters to be precise, since they come from different mothers. It turns out that just like in a can, Kazuha's dad simply said, "Nah, that's not my daughter, I'm off to buy cigarettes," to avoid paying child support, which is why Akira lives alone. Haru asks her not to tell anyone about this because it's something very delicate. When they were coming back alone, they ran into the lady from the candy store who was pretty upset because Akira hadn't shown up anywhere, so everyone rushed to look for her, finding her passed out at the temple. According to the doctors, she had been overexerting herself with the festival preparations, which caused her physical condition. And all of this really affects Kazuha because they say it's all her fault for not taking care of her, just like her dad, for getting obsessed with someone, referring to her liking Haru. You really got yourself a crazy one. But fortunately, it was just pure exhaustion, and in a few days, Akira gets back to normal. So one afternoon, Kazuha decides to stop by the temple to check on her half-sister, but she finds her sweeping, which annoys her. She tells her to take a break because she must still be pretty weak. This is where the girl starts asking if it's okay that she doesn't pay attention to her, but of course it's her boyfriend, or if she shouldn't go to her violin classes. Kazuha responds that she's there to take care of her, not to throw tantrums. This is when things start to get a bit messy because Akira asks who he loves more, her or Haru, and right after that she gives him a big kiss. Kazuha pushes her away, and her sister replies that she doesn't have to pretend to be strong or try so hard since she clearly likes the main guy more. Then Akira's birthday arrives and all the boys celebrate at home. But the strange thing is that Kazuha is not present because she is sick. This puzzles Haru and he tries to contact her without success. The main guy will have a conversation with the birthday girl telling her that it's also his sister's birthday and that she should celebrate with her too. The albino confesses that he's in love, but Sora is hiding and listening to everything, so yeah girl, they really stole your ring. Haru wanted to see his waifu and give her a nice gift, so he tries to make her a little present. The next day he goes to Kazuha's house to give her that, and of course it's something he prepared with a lot of love. However, his girlfriend doesn't leave the house because she's still sick, or at least that's what Motoka says. The truth is, the girl is just pretending to be sick so she doesn't have to see Akira. Then the day of the summer festival arrives, and while Haru and Akira are talking, Kazuha shows up, which is just the right moment for the little sister to leave. She has to go perform a ritual at the temple, which is part of the festival. Here are the lovebirds finally together, holding hands, starting to talk about the past and their father's decision. It turns out that after the temple guy's ammunition, the owner of the candy store started taking care of Akira, even though she didn't have enough money to support a girl. This is something their father noticed, so he began to help his other daughter financially. Haru tells Kazuha that she should forgive her father. After a stop at the festival, Haru and Kazuha decide to go see Akira and find her being affectionate with her dad. That's when Kazuha realizes that everything the main guy said was true, and she had never bothered to understand her father until that moment. After seeing this, she forgives him. Later at Kazuha's house, they look at each other and say they love each other, they share a kiss, and they clap without using their hands. The next day, the girl would finally get to play the violin in front of her sister, and of course our main guy, who I guess is now her boyfriend. Haru starts to remember how things didn't just end with kisses yesterday, as we can see. Briefly, how the goddess of the night wraps things up, marking the end of the first route of this anime, which was pretty good and nothing too crazy. And here the anime would flash back to the moment when Haru tries to return Kazuha's phone. But the situation would be totally different, because instead of being surprised by the maid, Akira would come out of the women's dressing room. Later, the cheerful girl would share what we already know, that they are half-sisters and to keep it a secret. Later, at the twins' house, Sora would show some photos from a summer festival she experienced with her little brother when they were very young. Among the memories, he opened a locket, and seeing it, Haru would remember that he had known Akira for many years since the necklace belonged to the girl's mother, Akanijo. Gossip activated! Karu would leave early the next day to run into Akira, and as expected, he finds her all alone at school since it's super early. Wait a minute, girl. Don't you have anything to do at home or what the hell? And our main guy confesses that he remembers everything. The girl hugs him and decides to talk about the summer festival when they were kids, and this brings up a flashback of both of them running through the woods catching bugs until Akira decides to climb a tree, falls, and ends up losing that necklace, a keepsake from her mother. Haru gives him a hard time about this because he was the kid who wanted an insect from the tree, so he promises to find that keepsake, calling Akira so they can both look for it. But there's something really strange because before this, our main guy has a weird dream where he goes to the temple as a kid and sees something that leaves him in shock and he ends up waking up. I dreamed that I was debuting for a fanboy. Sora is puzzled about what Haru is up to, but she tells her that he's going out to do some buddy stuff with Ryohei. Now at Akira's house, we'll see that if he caught her little sister's attention so much, it was because he was dressed in a pretty peculiar way. Peculiar. Not peculiar. He even brought a shovel with him, so the girl from the north probably suspects he's building a snowman, but thankfully, it's just his brother acting like a total goof who doesn't let anything slide. Anyway, Haru and Akira go to the forest, and when they get to the spot where the tree used to be, it's not there anymore. Apparently, there was such a powerful landslide years ago that it took down the tree, and now a river runs through that area. This doesn't bother our main guy though, because he decides to jump into the riverbank to start searching. Obviously, the girl would ask him why he was bothering to do all that, to which the guy would reply that he remembered seeing her really sad in his dream about losing that necklace, so he can't just leave her feeling down like that. So after charming Akira with those words, the girl trips over him, and they both fall into the river. Obviously, they have to wash up to avoid catching a cold, so they both head back to the temple where the girl lives. But while our main guy is taking a shower, Akira barges in because she wants to save water, and guess what? Yep, what had to happen, happened. Lots of fun because the one who forgives is up there. Later, both talk about Akira's mother, since it is not known if she is alive. Huya left with St. Peter. So Haru thinks it will be easier to find a woman than to find the necklace in a river, so he suggests looking into his grandfather's things since there should be some information about it, saying that he was the doctor in town. But don't get your hopes up because they won't find anything. It's like when you touch a waifu figurine, you don't touch anything, you don't find anything. Then the summer festival arrives and everything goes smoothly until just before the ritual moment. Here, Akira will meet up with Kazuha and Kazuha's mother, who clearly doesn't like her at all, but still greets her. Then comes the moment of the ritual that Akira would star in at the temple, and while she performs her dance, Haru notices that the girl is crying. So after the ritual, the little twin rushes to see her to find out what's going on, and when he arrives, he finds Akira holding some papers from Grandpa Kasugano and learns something horrible, a twist worthy of a Rosa de Guadalupe episode. It turns out that Akira and Kazuha were switched at birth, but discovering the truth could ruin both of their lives. OMG. The next day in class, Akira calls Haru to the music room after school. She ends their relationship because she doesn't want to fall in love with him anymore, thinking that everything and everyone disappears and she wants to spare herself some pain. Our main guy goes to Kazuha's house. He finds all the gossip to ask her to take a DNA test so they can both have a clearer picture of their lives. And while Kazuha is willing to take the test for her little sister, her mother doesn't want her to do it and thinks it's all really strange for her to agree. Akira, talking about the latter, would have a memory of when she was a little girl and her adoptive family didn't want her, with the old man and the temple master being the only one who genuinely loved her like a granddaughter. But what a guy. But what, Mr. Tango? The DNA test was done, so the day for the lab results arrives, but Akira has run away to avoid finding out the results. She hasn't shown up at school and no one has seen her anywhere, so Haru and Kazuha decide to look for her. Our main guy ends up finding her at the train station. She was trying to escape because she feels like nobody loves her, or that even with that test she wouldn't be accepted. So in response, our goofy albino guy tells her that if she's going to run away, they should escape together. But in the end, she doesn't get on any train because she has no idea where to run off to, so they decide to head back home instead. You wanted to get attention, and you don't even know where you're going. In the end, the hypotenuse, and just when the results are about to be read, Akira decides not to look at them and starts crying, saying she doesn't want to ruin Kazuha's relationship with her mother. At that moment, the mom arrives, inviting everyone to come into the house. They read the results, and indeed, they are negative. The mother would explain that she had already carried Akira in the hospital, and the little rascal ripped off the necklace, which she decided to give to the baby because she wanted her to have a memory of a mother. After that, her genetic mom passed away. She went off with St. Peter due to Kazuha's father's infidelity. The lady didn't know how to feel about Akira, so she apologizes and asks her to start over. In the end, everything turned out well, so as a reward for helping Akira, our main guy got to have some fun with her, swearing that love and a lot more. Delicious, really nice. But what a bummer. Wrapping up this route, so now we move on to the next one. He wanted to take his uniform measurements, but nothing relevant happens in the first few minutes until the Kasugano twins arrive to offer them some incense against mosquitoes, chatting and planning to go to school together another time, which Zoro was watching from the shadows. Damn, home-wrecking cat, you're trying to steal my Onya from me. In class, Haru couldn't stop looking at Nao while she was cleaning the office, which Ryohei noticed and took him to the rooftop so they could spy on her better with some binoculars. Here, his buddy would ask him if he likes the girl, and our main guy would get uncomfortable and remember something from his childhood, something I can't mention because it would demonetize the video, but I want you to know that Nao has had a crush since she was little, a really big crush. Ryoha goes to Nao with the gossip that Haru has feelings for her and that she should take advantage of the situation, but she tells him it can't be true. Then we see a flashback of Nao escaping from domestic violence, and while she was running around, she would bump into the main guy all alone, but our albino wasn't the smooth guy he is now, so she takes advantage of him to suck out his collagen, leaving him all traumatized. Later in the afternoon, Nao goes to the twins' house to fix Sora's uniform. She finishes the buttons and is about to leave, but Haru insists that she stay a little longer because it makes him feel comfortable. The atmosphere starts to get steamy, and just before they kiss, Sora shows up, gets angry, and leaves. Later, we'll see the northern girl in her room tearing off the buttons and sewing them back on herself. Well, too bad, girl, they already stole your chance. The atmosphere starts to get horny, and just before they kiss, Sora appears, but he gets angry and leaves. Later, we'll see the northern girl in her room tearing off the buttons and sewing them back on herself. Well, too bad, girl, they already stole your chance. The next day, Ryohei notices that the two lovebirds haven't said anything about how they feel, so he decides to play Cupid. The boy wants to teach Haru to swim and invites him to some swimming classes that were only with Nao, and since there is no other option, they both start swimming. After class, they both go to their changing rooms to get changed, and then Nao screams and Haru rushes to the rescue, but the girl just looks scared because a cat startled her. Just then, the school janitor approaches, and if they get caught, they'll have some trouble, so they both decide to hide inside a box. How convenient! They laugh about getting into this little mischief. The box breaks, and Nao falls on top of Haru, remembering a time when she forced him into something intimate, but now he's feeling it too and tells her he didn't know how to react back then because he was really little, but now it's a different story, so he kisses her. Sora can't stand Nao and is discovering on her computer just how much he hates her, like a typical Twitter hater without a profile picture. It's time to get the sister-in-law's permission, but he avoids discussing it with Haru as he clearly hates Nao, even refusing a lunch invitation. Later, the main guy buys dinner ingredients and goes home with his girlfriend. They look through a memory album, an excuse to get intimate. Sora, already home, wakes up smelling food and hearing clapping, but not with hands. She investigates and finds her brother feeding Nao. Not exactly dinner, it's more like dessert. Later, the main guy buys the ingredients for dinner and goes home with his girlfriend. They both start looking through a memory album, and you know how it goes, it's all just an excuse to get intimate. Sora was already at home, and she wakes up because she smells food and hears people clapping for her, but maybe without hands, so she decided to investigate and finds that her brother is feeding Nao something to eat and not exactly dinner. I think he means dessert. The northern girl gets really mad and kicks Nao out of the house, not even giving her a chance to get dressed properly. Here, Sora would confess that as a child, she watched from the shadows as Nao forced her brother into something intimate, and because of that, she won't let her get close to Haru again. The main guy doesn't know what to do as his girlfriend leaves, while the northern girl, in a fit of rage, throws all the soup. The situation gets even more complicated when Ryohei tells our main guy that Nao changed drastically after one summer, becoming antisocial, which happened right after her first time. If Haru doesn't talk to her, the situation could repeat itself, but Sora won't allow that and always spends time with her little brother whenever she can. They finally have a moment to talk, and the plan now is to talk and convince Sora to give the relationship her blessing. So, another chapter of the drama unfolds, but this time Haru gets knocked over by a wave that leaves him almost stiff. Luckily, he's rescued by nothing, but even though Sora saw this, she doesn't care for him at all. Days go by, and Sora gets more and more jealous until finally it reaches a point where the northern sister decides to run away from home. All the guys are desperately searching for her until they find the brother's bike next to a river, but she wasn't there. Nayo ends up finding her sister-in-law at a bus stop, but she doesn't want to talk. On the contrary, she says that when her brother arrives, she's going to take him out of town so that no one can take him away from her. Both of them started arguing outside the bus stop when suddenly a lightning bolt strikes the place, and Sora's teddy bear gets trapped in the stop, which starts to catch fire. Sora tries to rescue it because it's a memory of her mother, and now, knowing this, jumps in to save the little bunny. That's when the sister-in-law confesses that her drama was because she's afraid of losing Haru. Yeah, right, just tell her you're dying for her kisses, girl. Then the summer festival comes around again, and the situation has changed because Sora now accepts Nao as her sister-in-law. And well, like in all the routes, our main guy takes advantage of the bus to take his girl to the woods so he can lean her against a little tree to really get her in the mood. Oh, how romantic. And that's how this story ends. Or maybe not, since the best route is still missing. I mean, wait, they're going to call you out here. Don't ask me for too much, I'm from Monterey. Northeastern music? Later that night, our protagonist has a memory of being a kid with his parents, and then his sister comes home from the hospital, and this memory turns into a dirty dream because his little twin kisses him. And later at school, Ryohei jokes that our protagonist is lucky to see a girl as pretty as his little sister every day. I promise no one finds it funny since they are siblings. Later, the albino has the Sokonao weapon and they both agree to go on a date. Later, when Haru gets home, he finds Sora lying at the entrance, covered with just a small towel and nothing else, which makes him really uncomfortable. He asks her not to dress like that and says it's not okay for her to be seen like that. In fact, she even takes off the towel and hugs him from behind. But hey, it's all good because the protagonist refuses to look at her for now. The day of the date is getting closer, and 2 days before, Sora wants her brother to go with her to buy some things. Our protagonist tells her he has plans with Ryohei, which is a lie, and his sister insists that those plans aren't important and that he should cancel them to go with her. The day of the date is almost here, and 2 days before, Sora wants her brother to go with her to buy a few things. Our protagonist tells her he has plans with Ryohei, which is a lie, and his sister says those plans aren't important and that he should cancel them to go with her. I'm first, bro, I'm the real deal. The protagonist tries to cancel his plans with Nao, but she's so excited that he decides not to cancel on her. Haru tells his sister that he's not going to cancel his plans, which ends up really upsetting her. I'm going to cut your little chili, bro. Then Sunday comes, so they have a date, but our protagonist doesn't look very entertained. Even during the date, he takes advantage of the bug to buy things for his sister. Later that night, when he gets home with Nao, he's about to prepare dinner, so he wants Sora to come down to eat, but he finds her crying. The protagonist tells Nao that Sora isn't really in the mood to eat with them, and when his girlfriend finally leaves, Haru goes upstairs to see what's going on. The little sister shares that she had a dream where her brother wanted to abandon her, but he hugs her, telling her he would never do something like that. The next day, Sora acts quite jealous. We all notice it. When Nao tells Haru about it, he doesn't think it's that. Sure, you're from the north too. Later that night, our protagonist gets up to get some water, but he hears his little sister saying his name and thinks she's dreaming about him. But then he gets a surprise when he finds out that Sora was actually playing with her little toy, saying her own brother's name, which leaves him shocked. Haru and Nao would have other moments, but what our protagonist witnessed that night keeps haunting his thoughts, so he decides to push that memory out of his mind by taking his girlfriend to a hotel, trying to force things to get intimate. However, she starts crying and panics. The little twin stops and apologizes to her, leaving something else hanging in the air, as Nao asks him if he loves her, but he doesn't answer. So from here on, things start to get a bit murky, as Haru becomes intrigued by his little sister, so he looks into this kind of relationship at the school library. Gozue sees this and decides to add to his knowledge, telling him that in ancient Japan, it was quite normal. Even in fiction it is. But in real life, the story is different because everyone opposes and rejects this kind of relationship. Unless you're from the north. The next morning, our guy sees that Sora is really sick and has a high fever, so he lets everyone know that they won't be going to school and stays home to take care of his little sister. He even leaves her in just her underwear and takes it upon himself to wipe the sweat off her body with a cloth. But from exhaustion, Haru ends up dozing off, so his sister wakes him up with kisses and tells him that the water is nice and warm and that they should take a bath. You know what I mean? They celebrated the north. Oh, how nice. The next day, it's clear that the twins have become much closer, and of course since they've gone from having a toxic relationship to getting along much better, but they've taken their relationship to a new level because they no longer act like siblings at home. Now they look like a newlywed couple. As the days go by, the way they get along catches Kosue's attention, and she tells Haru that he shouldn't be so affectionate with his sister because it could be misinterpreted. Gossiping old lady. During dinner, Haru tells his sister that people are starting to see the north in them, but she responds by reaching down for the snacks. Oh man. The protagonist is so fascinated by that he daydreams in class about Sora doing another dental job on him. They quickly head back home, and our northern guy has forgotten his phone in the living room, so Nao and Kosue decide to go to his house to return it. Big mistake. Haru and Sora start messing around with the monkey, not realizing that the protagonist's friends would show up, catching them right at the entrance. While the little sister says in the most northern way possible that nothing happened. What do you mean nothing happened, girl? They even gave you takeout. What do you mean, huh? The next day, Kozui confesses to Haru that she was in love with him and she thought he was a good boy. But after that, she changed her opinion a lot. But she doesn't have to worry because she won't reveal her little secret to anyone. Nao's conversation doesn't go well. Northern-kun justifies Sora's absence, saying he can't see her as his sister. They're canceling him on Twitter. Sora tries to cheer Karu, but he gets mad, insisting their actions are wrong. He reasons with his twin until he hits her. Northern-kun thinks the only solution is separation by adoption. Karu was quite discouraged in his room, so Sora tries to cheer him up by giving him a kiss, but he gets angry and tries to force his little sister to understand what the hell we're doing. My girl, we're really northern, but she just likes the situation. But he keeps insisting and tries to make his twin understand that this is really wrong, until he ends up hitting her. So, from Northern Kun's point of view, the only way to fix things is for them to be adopted by different uncles and be separated forever. The next day, Sora's room is completely trashed, and she has run away from home, leaving a text message for our protagonist, where she explains that she loves him more than a brother and feels bad for not being able to take things further. Haru goes out to look for her and runs into Nao, who also helps with the search, but they can't seem to find her anywhere. Then, Ken Ortinho-kun remembers that Akira mentioned a lake behind the temple that has the power to bring terror back to life. Haru jumps into the lake, and sure enough, there's his little sister. They both argue, and the northern girl moves further and further away until they finally can't touch the bottom and start to drown, since remember, neither of them knows how to swim. Our protagonist, for his part, accepts that maybe the best thing for both of them would be to be separated, but in the end, Haru wakes up on the riverbank, so somehow Sora saved him. They hug, and decide they don't care what people say, since there's forbidden love murmuring through the streets and from different societies. Repent, son of the devil. So they start celebrating right there, and what a good decision that was. Later, we see the rest of the characters chatting, and Kazuha shares a text message with everyone. And of course, it's from the albino, where he tells them that they moved abroad, probably to some rundown little ranch where northern vibes are canon. So if they lived happily ever after, this anime would end with the two little twins traveling on a train, but not before sharing a little kiss, which is cool. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. If you'd like to see any of my upcoming videos, don't forget to subscribe. I suggest you follow me on my social media so you can stay updated on my next videos. I'll leave the link in the description. With nothing more to say, see you next time. Bye!